Hi, this is a vlog I put together about the Hypnodrome. I wanted to talk about the reception and my feelings about the project and go over some of the technical details of the project. And here we go. Let's get into it. The Hypnodrome is an art project that we brought to Critical Northwest, which is a regional Burning Man event. One of the major principles of Burning Man is participation. So what I did is I made an interactive art exhibit. And that art exhibit was a Be Your Own VJ station where you come into the tent and all of a sudden you're in control of the music, you're in control of the videos, you control effects on the videos, and it becomes your party all of a sudden. One of the major goals of the project was for me to give as few instructions about the equipment as possible and just make it intuitive and make it so that people would want to explore the equipment by pressing buttons and seeing what happens and discover the functionality for themselves.
We constructed a 25-foot diameter geodesic dome, and we set this equipment up inside with a projector and a mirror, and we're able to project onto the surface of the dome. We wanted to create a spectacle where wanderers would want to stop by our tent and look inside and see what's going on and decide to hang out for a while. And we made the inside of the tent as cozy as possible. So we put down a bunch of rugs. We had 2 inflatable pools that were filled with pillows. So it was really easy for people to just chill out for a while and stare at the projections and occasionally get up and play with the VJ equipment. Shout outs to Adam, Rosie, and Max for all the preparation and practice that went into building the dome. After we set everything up, I just gave people as little explanation as possible and let them start playing with it.
What did you do?
I hit a button. Okay, wait.
Severing me up or getting me fucked up more. Oh shit! Oh my god.
I feel like I need to be on drugs for this, but
I don't think you need to be on drugs. But it helps. But it helps. Everyone's drugs?
The reception was just incredible from the first night. I just had so many people coming by and just reacting to it exactly the way I wanted. One night we were worried that we'd have to impose time limits because people were sitting down for 20-minute stretches and just getting totally sucked into it.
Something I didn't anticipate is that people were showing their friends how to use the equipment. So after a while, I didn't even have to teach people to play it. It just became self-sustaining. I also didn't anticipate how much people would want to get involved with the Hypnodrome. So we actually had 5 guest DJs over the course of the week. That would be DJ Eki, DJ Patrick, Spark, Nug, and Ask Ari. So shouts to all of them. Spark came by the first night and he started talking about the silent disco equipment that he brought. So he had 50 pairs of headphones that were all hooked up to the same music. He actually ran a silent disco in our dome twice with the video going, and it was super cool.
I'm such a perfectionist that when I started putting this together, all I could think about was how I just didn't stack up to any professional VJs, and how there are so many people doing stuff that's just so much cooler than what I'm doing, and how can I ever measure up to those people? It's so dumb. The first night I showed anyone this stuff, I was showing how to do video mapping inside my bedroom. So I was able to, I had my spherical mirror set up and I was basically drawing lines with light on the wall. And my friend's jaws just dropped because it's a super cool thing if you've never seen it. And I didn't even realize how cool it was to have that together and have videos playing on it. And it made me realize that my general style is to just hang out in my basement and work on my creative projects until I think they're done. And that's just the wrong way to go about it. I really understand that the way to be successful as an artist in any capacity is to be out there and be involved in the community and not be afraid to show off art that isn't complete, because your art's never complete. There's always ways to improve it, and if you never get your work in front of people, then you'll never improve, but more importantly, you'll never feel the satisfaction that you're supposed to feel as an artist, where you're bringing people together and bringing smiles to people's faces and whatever it is you're trying to achieve. People were shocked that it was my first time at Critical, because clearly I belonged there. I didn't even believe that I was an artist, yet I brought this project together and I brought it to a perfect spot for it. Normally I don't like meeting new people, because you have to do this small talk thing where you ask the same questions over again, like, where are you from, what do you do, all that kind of stuff. And this project let me try this new interaction where people would stop by the dome and I was excited to meet them, and it's because I wanted to drag them to my project and get them playing with it and see how they reacted, and start talking about something I'm excited about. And those interactions were so fun for me, and they really allowed me to open up and show a side of myself that I love and is more the real me than what I usually project. 2 days into Critical, my campmate Evan pointed out that the way I talked about the dome, I wasn't really taking full credit for the dome. Like, I would always say it was our art project and it was our collective idea, and I was doing that, I think, as a self-defense mechanism in case it sucked, so that it wouldn't hurt me personally so much, and also not to hurt the feelings of my campmates. But those are false thoughts, and it was my idea. I was the largest cog in the machine, and I got the nickname Dome God as sort of a joke to push things in the other direction. So, I would call myself Dome God, and I would make all these things happen when really there was a lot of behind the scenes work from all the people who were trying to help me and trying to make the space awesome. But that I seriously, I love that nickname. It just cracks me up. It really points out how ridiculous it was that I was trying to minimize my role in it. And after that talk, I started calling it my art project and really taking ownership, and that just made me more proud and more excited about it. People who played with the Hypnodrome thought it was magical, and they assumed that I had a lot of experience doing VJ stuff, audio, video kind of stuff, and I don't. And this was really my first foray into the world of VJing. So I just wanted to go through the software that I used and the tools I used and explain what I'm doing with them. I want people to know that the learning curve on this is very shallow, and if you take the time to start piecing things together, you'll be pretty impressed with the results in not very long. So let's get into it. Here's what you see when you first approach the Hypnodrome. I explained some things to people. I explained that the video clips are on these glowing buttons, the music clips are on these buttons, and this stuff controls the effects. So I'll just show you real quick. You can queue up clips here, and these buttons control effects, and then above each effects button, there's 2 knobs that control parameters on that effect. So, for example, this is a pixelation effect, and the top knob controls the colors, and then this controls the size of the pixels. We've got like a zooming effect. So that gets pretty trippy. This is like a sharpness and hue kind of effect. This splits into RGB channels and then does some cool stuff with that. This adds some waves. Let's switch to this one. So yeah, it adds like ripple waves. This turns everything into a tunnel, and you control the speed of the tunnel and how curvy it is. This puts you inside of a sphere, and this one is sort of a blocky transition kind of effect. Okay, and also these effects stack, so you can end up doing some pretty crazy stuff. So, you know, why not just do as many things as you can, right? So the software responsible for everything there is Grand VJ, and this is our VJ software. And basically, all these buttons are MIDI mapped. So I'll show you my MIDI map real quick. These clips are all MIDI mapped to these buttons, and then the effects are also MIDI mapped to these buttons. So each of these represents a different MIDI button. And the parameters, if you go into these effects, you can see that these two knobs are also MIDI mapped. So that's how I control the parameters there. I also add some secret features. I have different banks of effects and different banks of videos. So the secret way to get to my other effects bank is to hit the right button here. Oh, and I just screwed up my mini map. But yeah, if you switch over there, that'll get you to another effects bank. You can switch back to the left button. For the bank switching, that was another secret. I hid that over here. So one video bank has 48 videos in it, and I actually had 3 banks of videos. Instead of letting people switch between them, I would basically switch between them myself when we in the audience got bored of seeing the same clips over and over again. But yeah, this was my favorite bank. This is basically sourced from Adam's website, which is helpimstoned.com. There are a bunch of pretty cool animated GIFs of fractals and kaleidoscopes and that sort of thing. One of the main reasons I decided to go with this particular VJ software is how powerful the video mapper is. And I'll just open that up real quick. I actually can't show you the video mapper in action because my projector is currently broken. So I don't recommend Epson projectors because of my sample size of 1 of it breaking once. But anyway, this is what your video mapper looks like. And what's cool is when your projector is going, you can drag around these lines and kind of draw on the surface that you're trying to make. So in this case, this is what I use to, to project on a dome. And you can get some really crazy shapes, and it's really easy to do things like reverse axes and things like that. And I was really impressed with this particular part of the software. Okay, besides Grand VJ, a major piece of software I'm running is Ableton Live. And what I've got here is, first of all, let me turn off the fancy graphics here real quick. So these buttons are all just clips in Session View, and if you look at what's on the clips, they are just notes. They're just MIDI notes. And what happens is I've got this clip set up so that it's looping over a middle part of the note. So what happens is Ableton ends up sending a note on message, and then the note just gets stuck in here, and there's never a note off message that gets sent. So this allowed me to do some fancy stuff in Grand VJ. Mainly, if you want more control over this kind of stuff, you can set trigger or toggle mode in Grand VJ, and that's a good way to have control over what you're doing. But yeah, these are just MIDI notes, and this allowed me to set some colors on the notes, and also to keep status showing on keep the status visible of the clips. So that part's pretty boring. An exciting part is the graphics for the Ableton Push. So each of these buttons has 128 possible colors, and the way you set colors on the buttons is Ableton is listening for MIDI out messages, and each of these buttons corresponds to a certain note. So like this key is C1, and when you send a note message, you also send a velocity with that message, and velocities range from 0 to 127. So depending on the velocity that you send to the note, you're going to end up with a different color. So what I did is I made a clip called Vegas Mode, and basically what I did is I found all the notes that corresponded to these buttons, and I sent them different velocities based on what graphics I wanted. So you see this little staircase thing, that's basically how I make wave kind of animations on the push. And I programmed one other graphics thing, and it was for bank switching, so I ended up not using it, but the bank switching graphics just flash green like that. Okay, let's talk about the actual music playing. So the way music works is I have you press these buttons and it'll basically switch to a different channel of music. I left this last button as kind of a troll. So people would usually hit the metal button and then panic because they ruined the chill atmosphere of the dome or whatever. But metalheads like this. We rocked out In Flames a couple times and it was glorious. But yeah, the communication channel of this is complicated. So let me show you what happens. We've got 8 different playlists of music that are hooked up to each of these buttons. And when you press a button, it'll just play a random track in that playlist. And what I'm doing is I'm using this program, Foobar 2000, for my music playing. It's the most flexible music player around. It has tons of plugins to basically do whatever thing you want it to do. So what I've got set up here is MIDI messages come from Ableton, and they get sent to this program, Bohm MIDI Translator Pro. This is a utility program that allows you to perform basically any action based on MIDI notes. So you can send MIDI notes to other devices, you can open virtual MIDI ports, and you can also do what I'm doing here, which is pressing physical keys. So when someone hits a MIDI note like this, the computer acts like you hit Alt-Shift-Q. And I've got Alt-Shift-Q set up as a global shortcut to play a track from this playlist. So the way this is set up is if you go to keyboard shortcuts, you can see here I've got all these shortcuts set up, and they're all performing these actions based on the scheduler. And inside the scheduler, I define all these things. And here's I'll show you an example. What this action is doing is you set the active playlist to French exit, and then you start playback, and then you go to the next track because I've got the play mode on random, and the playlist starts playing the first track in the playlist, and by going to the next track, we guarantee that we have a random track playing. So that's kind of fancy, and it allowed us to have a variety of music and allowed us to avoid having to make mixes and fade tracks together and all sorts of fancy stuff. We were able to just dump hours and hours of music that we liked into this program. If I was doing this project from scratch, I would probably not use Grand VJ. I would probably look into this program called Resolume Arena. It is cross-platform and it's free, and it seems like there's a bigger community and better support for cooler effects. Like, I wasn't very happy with the Grand VJ audio responsive effects. So there's some effects that listen to the music and do certain things based on EQ levels and volume and whatnot. And you can't really write your own effects for it. And Resolume Arena just has way more effects built in and downloadable, and is way more flexible in that regard. And that's very important to me. So that's where I would start. I also think you don't really need Ableton Live running. I was scheming about ways to take it out of the equation because the main thing I wanted for Ableton Live was to be able to put fancy graphics on my push. And I think you could do that without having a whole huge piece of software running. So that about wraps it up. And if you have any questions about specific parts of the setup, or you want any of the Ableton or Grand VJ files that I use, just shoot me a message, get into contact with me. I love discussing this stuff. And that's it. Thanks. Dome God out.